In September 2025, US President Donald Trump arrived in Britain to a welcome that felt less like a diplomatic visit and more like a coronation. King Charles III and Queen Camilla received Trump at Windsor Castle with full royal pageantry. A ceremonial gun salute was fired from the castle's eastern gardens. Trump was escorted through the grounds in golden carriages accompanied by mounted royal guards. That evening, the British government hosted a lavish state banquet in St. George's Hall, a setting reserved for history-making occasions. This was not about friendship or tradition. It was about strategy. At the center of it all was Britain's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and a broader European belief that Donald Trump could be managed, softened, even neutralized, if he was flattered enough. At the time, Trump was already deep into a global trade war. He was threatening tariffs against almost everyone, including America's closest allies. France had taken a different path, openly pushing Europe toward confrontation and resistance. But Britain and many other European capitals chose another approach: appeasement. The logic was simple. Trump likes admiration. Give him pomp, prestige, and symbolic victories, and maybe he'll back off. This strategy defined Europe's relationship with Trump during the first year of his second term. Despite repeated insults, provocations, and economic threats, European leaders lowered their heads and avoided escalation. The goal was to buy stability. But recently something changed. European leaders are beginning to realize that France may have been right all along. Appeasement did not protect them. It made things worse. Instead of calming Trump, Europe's restraint convinced him that they were weak. And weakness in Trump's worldview is an invitation. Today, the United States isn't just pressuring Europe economically. It's openly challenging European sovereignty. And it all leads to one place: Greenland. July 27th, 2025, is a date many Europeans will not forget. French Prime Minister François Bayrou called it a black day in European history. A day, he said, when the continent chose submission. What happened? To understand that moment, we have to go back to what may be the most reckless trade war in modern history. On April 2nd, 2025, Trump stood in the White House Rose Garden and declared what he called Liberation Day. In front of journalists, he unveiled a board titled Reciprocal Tariffs. Listed were countries and regions targeted by new U.S. trade penalties. China topped the list with tariffs of 34%. Right beneath it, the European Union, hit with a staggering 20% tariff. Europe was stunned. Brussels immediately began preparing retaliation, counter tariffs on more than 20 billion euros worth of American goods. But before Europe could act, Trump abruptly reversed course. On April 9th, he announced a 90-day suspension of the tariffs and invited affected parties to negotiate. The real reason was fear. Fear of a collapse in the U.S. bond market, the backbone of the American economy. Negotiations followed, and they were brutal. Trump treated the talks not as diplomacy, but as extortion. Seated in the Oval Office, Trump told reporters bluntly, "We're not negotiating. The deal is done. Europe will pay 50%. Europe still hesitated, hoping it was just rhetoric. Then came July 13th. Trump announced a 30% tariff on EU goods, effective August 1st. For a moment, it looked like Europe might finally fight back. The EU prepared counter tariffs worth 93 billion euros. Markets braced for escalation. And then, Europe folded. On July 27th, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen met Trump at his Turnberry Golf Resort in Scotland. The talks lasted just 40 minutes. The result was extraordinary. The US would impose a 15% tariff on European goods. Europe would impose nothing in return. Zero. Von der Leyen emerged smiling, calling it the best we could do. In reality, it was a one-sided surrender. France opposed the deal fiercely. French Trade Minister Laurent Saint-Martin warned that Trump only understands force. Had Europe responded firmly, the outcome would have been different. But most European leaders accepted the humiliation, hoping to avoid Trump's wrath, and desperate for U.S. support on Ukraine and NATO. Instead, they taught Trump a dangerous lesson. Europe will back down. The consequences were immediate. Trump grew bolder, more aggressive, more contemptuous. Days later, he sent a bizarre message to Norwegian Prime Minister. In it, Trump questioned Denmark's ability to protect Greenland from Russia or China. He reminded Norway of everything America had done for NATO. And then he made his demand. The United States wants Greenland. The White House shared this message with multiple ambassadors in Washington. This wasn't a joke. Trump's approach to Europe since returning to power has been a mix of bullying, mockery, and coercion. He believes Europe is weak, and he exploits weakness mercilessly. The irony is that Europe is not weak. In fact, economically, Europe has more leverage over the United States than China does. The real question is whether Europe has the courage to use it. Trump's obsession with Greenland isn't new. During his first term, he floated the idea casually and was laughed off. This time, it's different. The White House has openly stated that military options are on the table. Greenland matters for two reasons: geography and resources. Geographically, Greenland is the largest island in the world and the biggest landmass in the Arctic. Its location is critical in the emerging Arctic power struggle involving the US, Russia, and China. Resource-wise, Greenland is a treasure chest. Estimates suggest it holds around 38.5 million tons of rare earth elements. The Arctic region as a whole contains roughly 22% of the world's undiscovered oil and gas reserves. As ice melts, access becomes easier. Control becomes priceless. Trump, of course, doesn't say he wants Greenland for resources. That would sound like theft. Instead, he claims America must take Greenland to prevent China or Russia from doing so. It's a hollow argument. Greenland faces no imminent threat, yet Europe astonishingly chose to play along. NATO members sent a few dozen troops to Greenland, a symbolic move meant to reassure Trump. It backfired spectacularly. On January 17, 2026, Trump responded with a furious post on Truth Social, attacking Europe. He announced new tariffs, 10% starting February 1st, rising to 25% by June. France exploded. French leaders blamed Europe's earlier surrender. Brussels, they argued, had emboldened Trump. Now the EU is debating retaliation, including the €93 billion counter tariffs previously shelved. But France wants more. President Emmanuel Macron is pushing for the activation of Europe's most powerful economic weapon, the anti-coercion instrument nicknamed the bazooka. Created in 2023, this tool was originally designed to counter China. It has never been used. If activated, it allows the EU to impose sweeping tariffs, target US tech giants like Google, Meta, and Microsoft, restrict American investments, ban US firms from public procurement. In short, it could lock American companies out of one of the world's most profitable markets. Trump thrives on brinkmanship. He would almost certainly escalate. But Europe has something Trump underestimates: depth. There is an even darker scenario. Europe alone holds over $8 trillion in US stocks and treasury bonds, possibly $12.6 trillion including funds based in Europe. If Europe ever chose to dump these assets, it would trigger a devastating financial crisis in the United States, but it would also hurt Europe badly. This is the nuclear option: mutually assured economic destruction. Unlikely, but not impossible in an extreme confrontation. Russia is watching this unfold with delight. The Kremlin has openly encouraged Trump to seize Greenland. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov told Trump he would go down in world history if he succeeded. Why? Because a fractured NATO, a divided West, and a Europe at war with Washington is Russia's strategic dream. Every fight between allies weakens the system designed to contain Moscow. Europe's real problem isn't weakness, it's fear. Fear of economic pain, fear of confrontation, fear of independence. But the past year has proven one thing clearly: appeasing Trump is more dangerous than resisting him. Trump humiliates those who submit and backs down only when confronted. China stood up to him, Brazil did too, Europe didn't, and now Trump wants their land. Europe has reached the end of the road. Submission leads only to more demands. Resistance comes with costs, but also with dignity. The question now is simple: Will Europe finally choose to fight back? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this analysis added value, subscribe to the channel.